Good morning, everybody. I was so not stealthy in coming up here, by the way, but I'm a little disheveled, as usual, so I thought I'd start ahead of time. Hey, quick warning, and I'm going to draw attention to it now, and it's going to make everything more awkward. I just was telling them. I am wearing heels, so if I fall off the stage, you're free to laugh at me. I have a wedding in March, and the one request of the groom was that I actually learn how to walk in heels. So I walk like a T-Rex. I have no elegance. So if I fall, at least it will be noted by a bunch of people. Okay, so anyways, moving on. We're talking about love. What is love? And my first reaction was, I don't know. So maybe I should just sit down. And then how awkward would be that moment when I fall down the stairs to sit down to make an emphatic point. So I'm not going to do that. The interesting thing about it, though, is when I think about love, I realize that I have so much of it to give, and I'm so full of it at times that, it's a little ridiculous. For example, I can love inanimate objects. I am like, oh my word, I love this microphone, and I'm not making an Anchorman referral. I'm just saying in general, I just love things, and I'm that person that forgets to hate things. And the interesting part about that is that I can flirt with a chair. And it's not that I'm intentionally flirting with this chair, and it's not that I'm intentionally flirting with anyone. It's just I'm a happy person, and I'm friendly, and so then I accidentally flirt with things. So I'll be like, hey, Stand, how's it going? And I don't mean to be that weird, but it just happens. And so I have this weird thing, right? And so as I was thinking about all this love, I realized that I get carried away with it all the time. But that's not the case for everyone. And when I thought about that, I thought about this moment in Alaska when I was walking with my sister-in-law's uncle and best friend, who are also my friends. Anyway, so I'm walking with Earl and Ginger, and we're walking down this pier, and I look over, and I see this seal. I think I even have a picture of the very seal I saw, and it loved me. It made eye contact, and I knew at that moment it just wanted a hug. So of course I turned to Earl, who's like my best friend in the family, and I was like, Earl, it wants a hug. So I, like an idiot, start reaching down because I just want to hug it, right? And this is what I envision it to be wanting, right? So the next slide, this is what I envision. It just wants a hug, right? And he goes, it's gonna eat your face off. And I was like, why are you such a pessimist? No, it's not. It totally wants a hug. Look at its endearing eyes. It's just looking at me, and it loves me. And he was like, oh, my word, your arm's going to be eaten. You're going to get your face eaten off. And then what am I supposed to tell your parents? And, it's this whole thing, right? So that's how pathetic and weird I am with that aspect of love. So, oh, no, I tried to hug it, and it kept swimming away. So I don't know. And then I almost fell into the water, and it was Alaska, so it was cold, so I just aborted that mission. Anyhow, so moving on, though I am quite capable to flirt with, music stands and chairs and seals, I am quite oblivious to the other end of love, okay? And let me explain to you how oblivious I am. I made a policy a long time ago to never assume anything about anyone, right? And so I almost overly don't assume things at times. And so I have been on more dates than I can count that I'm not aware I'm on. So let me tell you about one of the dates that I did not know I was on. And it was one of the first dates that I think I've ever been on. Yeah, probably. I don't go on that many dates, but I sure do not know I'm on half of them. So I was in college. I didn't date through high school. The guys know this story. I didn't date through high school. I didn't care. I grew up with all boys. My best friends were guys. Who cares, right? So I had 40 great guy friends instead of one boyfriend. It made sense in my head. So I am on my way to college, and my brother used to try to sell me for $20 to his friends, and that never worked out. And I remember I had spoken, I think it was the end of my freshman year of college, and I had spoken for Week of Prayer. And back when I could actually speak up front and not look ridiculous. And I finished the Week of Prayer, and I went down, and this guy comes up to me, and he says, I really appreciated your talks this week. And I said, well, thank you. And he said, I would like to talk more about them. And I said, cool. And he said, we should hang out sometime. And I said, oh, right. Logical, right? So he's like, how about, I think it was Thursday at this time. And I was like, cool, I'm just getting out of class. Just meet me at the art department. He was like, all right. All right. Okay, so then I go to the art department. I'm in class. I do all this stuff. I was doing a painting studio, so I had like my huge canvas and like I had paint smeared all over my face. I had like torn up, busted jeans because I'm nature, and I like just looked a hot mess. I think I had styrofoam in my hair, and my hair it was bad. It was just really bad. Anyways, time is coming around the corner, so I grab my like jar of pottery stuff, so it's like it looks like body parts floating in water. It was really gross. Anyways, I had my jar, I had my canvas. I'm running out the door to meet this guy to have this religious talk that he wants to have, right? So I run out, and there he stands in the parking lot, and he has his sweater tucked into his jeans. And I was like, weird, don't know him, so maybe that's just what he does. So I look at him, and he's like, okay, you ready to go? And I'm like, huh? And he's like, yeah, let's just go eat. And I'm like, okay, who doesn't like food? I'm in. So we put all the stuff in the boot of his car, and I get in the front seat, and I look around, and this car is ridiculously clean. Like, I cannot express to you the amount of clean it is because it's like vacuumed in between the seats. Like, who does that in college, right? So it's vacuumed. He said, yeah, I just detailed my car. And I'm like, good for you. I would never. I worked construction. My car is a disaster all the time. And he was like, so we're going to go to Panera. And I was like, cool. I like Panera. So we go to Panera. We get there. The story is way too drawn out. I apologize ahead of time. We get to Panera. I get in line. I order my food. He's like, go ahead. So I order my food. And as I'm about to pay, he jumps in line in front of me and starts ordering. And I was like, well, what a jerk. I don't even know him, and he's making me pay for his food. Whatever. It's cool. I got this. So then he pays. And I don't know what to do because I don't know. I've never had this situation happen before unless it's like my brother. So I was like, oh, that's very kind of you. But then I thought maybe he's just super rich and like owns Panera because he tucks his sweater into his jeans and details his car in college. Like, this makes no sense to me. So we get... Yeah, I'm such an idiot. Okay, so then we sit down. I start eating. Halfway through my bread bowl, I'm like, because we weren't talking about religion. He was asking all these weird personal questions and like trying to get. I was like, what is wrong with you? Anyway, so it hits me. What if? What do I do? So of course I do what any wise college student does. I run to the bathroom because I have to go to the bathroom, right? So I'm like, excuse me, gotta pee. Run to the bathroom, get into the stall, and call the one person I know will tell me the truth. So I call my big brother, and I say, hey, hypothetical situation. What if, hypothetically, someone shows up to take someone out to talk, and the person has their sweater tucked into their jeans, their car is super clean, and then they pay for their meal? He's like, you're an idiot. You're on a date. Click. I was like, how? Okay, so plan B, because my brother's just being mean, because he's my brother, and that's what he's supposed to do. So plan B. I call my best girlfriend, right? She lives around the corner. She should know these things. She dates all the time. So I call her. I'm like, hey, fatty, quick question. Sorry, her name is Heather. Quick question. That's her nickname. She's really skinny. It's not that mean. Okay. Anyways, hey, quick question. Hypothetically, if someone's supposed to hang out, the guy shows up, his sweater is tucked into his jeans, his car is super clean, and then he pays for dinner, hypothetically, she's like, you're on a date. I was like, no. And she's like, which Panera? Because I had mentioned Panera, and I was like, uh-oh, click. So I hang out, right? So I go back to the table, and now I'm like in the state of like just sheer awkwardness, because I'm naturally awkward, right? I can flirt with the music stand, but I'm just an awkward person. Maybe that should have warned people. So I'm like walking, and I'm like, I don't know what to do now, because now I'm on a date. And all I could think is like, this is so mean to me. I can't believe I'm saying this. He kind of looked like a potato in my head. But not like an ugly potato. He's a handsome guy. But anyways, the whole time I had him on my phone as Potato because I couldn't remember his name. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm on a date with Potato. What do I do? So I don't know what to do. I don't know if I'm supposed to flip my hair, because that's what girls do, right? Or like sit, I have my hands out, what do you do? And so I'm like eating and like drooling on myself, and it just was going downhill. Like there was nothing natural about it. So at the end, he wanted to go to a movie and stuff, and I couldn't, and another story for another time. Moral of this story: I am oblivious to people handing me love. And I end up in these super awkward situations like that, where if I had just opened my eyes or perhaps even just acknowledged reality or society around me and their social norms, maybe I would have been aware of what was happening. In Jeremiah 17:9 it says, "The heart is more treacherous than anything else and is desperate. Who can know it?" So yeah, the heart can lead us astray, and apparently no one can know how to have pure love because we are tainted by all the other mumbo-jumbo that is our society and humanity. So maybe my lack of dating skills can carry on and is inconsequential, and I can rely more on cute animals that just aren't trying to eat my face off and want a hug. But then, then I started getting distracted again. I thought about, wait for it, The Princess Bride. All right. Does anyone know this? Okay. Shh, don't tell anyone I watched that a lot. Okay, so there's a scene, there's several scenes that I was thinking of, but the one that hit me kind of hard at this moment was when Wesley said, "I told you I would always come for you. Why didn't you wait for me?" And Princess Buttercup says, "Well, you were dead." And Wesley says, "Death cannot stop true love. All it can do is delay it for a while." Princess Buttercup said, "I will never doubt again." And Wesley said, "There will never be a need." That's awesome, right? Death doesn't even stop true love. And I was like, well, this is getting exciting as I go through my train of thought. Love is totally possible. And then I go on to this guy who, I don't know if you guys watch Facebook feeds and the viral Nova stuff. Anyways, there was this guy that was featured this last week. His name was Rocky Balsamo, I think. Anyways, his wife died in 1993. They'd been married for a super long time, and he missed and loved her so much that for the last 20 years, he died this January 22, at 97. But for the last 20 years, he sat every single day by her grave. He sits there and just spends time with her. I was like, that's kind of freakish love, but awesome, go him. He experienced real love. I can't even imagine that. But then I went even deeper, and I thought about seahorses. Do you guys know anything about seahorses? Oh, this is so good for you. I'm so excited for you right now. Seahorses make me think that true and perfect love is absolutely possible. Okay? Seahorses are monogamous, as most of you know. And they stay with their partners for their whole lives, which nowadays is really only 3 years. But still, it's a long time for a seahorse, all right? And the cutest thing ever is that every single morning they perform a greeting dance to reaffirm their pledge to each other. Is that not the cutest thing ever? They wake up in the morning and they're like, "I shall reaffirm my love." That's awesome. I was so excited when I found this fact out. And I was just like, this gives me hope in life, right? Humanity, the world, everything seems better when you find out that seahorses dance every morning for the other seahorse that they love. And I was like, that's amazing. So that's when I truly believed that love was absolutely possible. I mean, let's face it, everyone knows the Bible says all that stuff in 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It's not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance, right? We've heard this before. But maybe I'm a cynical person. Because are we even capable of any of that? I thought about, Jesus, he loved the lepers and the poor and the prostitutes, but he also happened to be the Messiah. And so when I thought about that, I was like, am I capable of this love? I'm capable of shallow love and all these other things, but am I capable of this love that's deep and amazing and crosses all boundaries without being irritated at times? So I thought about one of the moments that I went, oh, and thought, maybe people can truly love each other full-heartedly. And that was at my brother's wedding. I remember at his vows session, he was talking and he was sharing his vows. And my brother's adorable because he's my brother. I mean, come on. And he's standing there, and he had already written this amazing song for the processional. He'd already written another song to sing to his bride. But he started reading his vows. And in the midst of all this mushy mumbo-jumbo things, he says, "And I will bring you water and blankets when you're sick." And I went, "Aw," because I'm a girl, and that's what girls do when they think something's cute. And I remember thinking about that, and then when I thought about this, I was like, well, how, Really, at 3 a.m. when someone's throwing up, are you going to be like, oh, fun, I'm going to go get you water and blankets? No, you're irritated because you just got woken up at 3 a.m. because someone's puking beside you, right? Maybe that's just me. I'm a horrible person, apparently, so I'm moving right on. But when I thought about all that, I thought about how is it possible to have this love? And so I thought about people in my life that exude this love. And of course, I kept it real close because I've now gone from my brother to now I'm going to my parents. My parents are pretty much the most adorable people in the world. We do not always get along, let me clarify. I am human. But they are adorable. My parents, oh my word, okay, I don't even remember when this was, but one year for their anniversary, and they're like psychotic about date night, which I try to crash every time I'm home, and I never get away with it. They're psychotic about their Wednesday night date nights, and they're psychotic about their anniversary. They will have that anniversary together, no matter what continent they're on. So let me give you a small example of how ridiculous they are. My dad was in Florida doing I don't know what. My mom was in Michigan doing I don't know what. On their anniversary, and they were so distraught because they could not have dinner together. So they do what any normal couple does, and they get their little earpieces and their cell phones, and they both go to Olive Garden at the same time. They both get seated at the same time, and then they flirt, and they say, hey, you want to split the eggplant parmesan? I don't know, what do you want? I want strawberry lemonade. They have a straight up conversation about the menu. They order, and then they talk for like 3 hours. Who does that? But I was like, that's amazing, go you, high five for wanting to have your anniversary. And I was in awe of it, and I thought that's, good for you, yay. But it goes further than that. That's a pretty easy thing because you get a meal out of it, right? But then I thought about how crazy, stupid, and loved they really are. Because some of you may know this, probably most of you don't. My family has one of those genetic diseases, polycystic kidneys. Most of you have no clue what that is. But basically, there are thousands of little cysts inside your kidneys, and then one day you're just like, I quit, and the kidneys stop. And so you have to get a new kidney, right? Yeah. Good. No nodding. Yes, it's awesome, right? Okay, so this is what my grandmother died from. My dad has it, I have it. It's genetic fun. Okay, so anyways, we knew that my dad had it, and we knew that sometime soon he would have to have a kidney transplant. The problem was that we didn't realize how soon. And I remember at Christmas one year, he prayed for his life, and he just said, if this is my last Christmas, thank you. And I remember being floored and not knowing what to do, because it's not like he was dying tomorrow. He was healthy, but you never know. You never know when you're going to hit that dialysis moment. You never know all these things. I mean, they can predict some stuff, but it was just a weird prayer. And I remember my mom saying, I would like to get tested, because his waiting list was way longer than the amount of time that he actually had and all this stuff. And we're like, 1 in 10,000 people have matching kidneys. No, just walk away. She's like, no. So she got tested, and the test results were a little wonky, so she got tested again. When they tested her again, she was a perfect match. My mom made that decision that day that there was nothing that was going to stop her from giving one of her kidneys to my father. I still remember I was working at summer camp, which I did for 7 years because I never went to summer camp as a child, so I thought I'd try to live it out as a counselor and pool director. And I remember I went to get my brother. He was the mountain bike and counselor person, and I went to go get him, and we were about to head down to the hospital where my parents were being prepped for surgery, and it was a long surgery. It was like a 12-hour surgery or something ridiculous. So we get in the car, we're driving down, and we're talking about how amazing their love is for each other and whether or not we would actually do that for someone. Because obviously the donor is the one that goes through the most, because the other person's body is failing anyway, so anything is better than what they have. But the donor is the one that suffers, and we're just like, wow, what happens? We've been told our whole life, your parents might die at this moment, they might die at that moment. We're missionary kids, you never know what's going to happen. But this was a voluntary possible death. That was weird. And so we went to the hospital, we're in the pre-op room, and we're talking to them, and they were goofing off, and my mom was like, are you drinking enough water? Because when Neffy gets in there, you better make sure that it's taken care of. And all this, they were being ridiculous. And I was just like, that is weirdly cute. And they were flirting and talking, and they were totally at peace. And I remember they went to the surgery, and we were out in the lobby for like 10, 12 hours, or however long, I don't remember. I was quilting, so time goes by so quick when you quilt. And all these people were visiting and all that stuff. And I remember post-op, the doctor came out and they said, we had some complications, but they're doing really well. And I was like, yes. So they're like, okay, the 2 kids, you can go in and see them in the post-op room. And we're like, sweet. So we run in, and I don't know if you guys, I worked in the hospital, but I don't know if many of you guys have seen the post-operation rooms. It's like this massive room, and all the cots and stretchers and things are all here. And then in the middle, there's a nurse's station. Anyways, we run in, and my mom is the first one on the right. So we run to her, and we're like, Mom, how are you doing? And she's like, how's Gaspar? And I was like, that's my dad's name. And I was like, oh. So my brother and I go, hold on, we'll find out. So we run to the other bed, which is clear across the room, which makes no sense to me, but anyways, clear across the room. We go in, and we're like, Daddy, how are you doing? And he was like, how's Mom? And I was like, I don't know. We didn't ask. She didn't answer. So we'll be right back. So we run over, and then we're like, we never found out how he was, because the first thing she said was, so, how is he? And finally, we got that figured out. And we realized that the most important thing to them was how the other person was doing. And to me, that was really impactful. It wasn't, I'm doing well, I'm feeling better, I made it out okay. It was, how is he? How is she? And I remember the moment where finally the nurses saw my brother and I running around the post-op room, which was probably dangerous, and they decided that it would be wise to put their beds next to each other. And I remember they were moving my mom's bed over, and they put them right next to each other. Without saying a word, they just reached their arms out and grabbed each other's hands. There were no words spoken. And I just remember watching a tear. And it was like one of those sad movie moments where like the tear falls and the room goes silent. And literally all the nurses and doctors stopped because they knew what had happened, because they knew that a wife loved a husband so much. They went through a semi-dangerous surgery to give them life. And the story could go on, but I've thought about that so many times. Like, how often is it that we are capable of giving someone life? And I don't think you have to take life away in the sense of, like, you don't need to be crucified in the honest, true sense of the word. But I think that we are called to give life to people. And the more I thought about how crazy my parents are and how in love they are with each other, I thought about how can we catch that love? The crazy kidney-donating, morning greeting dance, sinner-loving kind of love. And then, my question goes a little bit deeper. Does love morph and change into what it needs to be for the individual? Perhaps that is why love hurts so many people, because we view love as something that can be bought in bulk or duplicated nowadays. But doesn't love have to be an original? It has to be something that is for an individual. God loves us individually. I can say to you all, hey, I love all of you. And you're probably sitting there saying, you don't even know me. Or, I don't even know your name. Or, we haven't really progressed to that level yet. But yet I can say it, right, to all of you as a whole. But it only really counts when I go up to an individual person and I explain to them why I love them, or if I know them, or if I have a relationship with them, or if I've spent time with them. That's the only time that people actually let that sink in. It has to be something that is for the individual. And yet, we get super weird about love. It's something that's free to us, or at least supposed to be, and we will never understand it at its rawest form, at least not on this earth. In Romans 5:8 it says, "But God shows his love for us in that while we are still sinners, Christ died for us." Love is not an expectation of perfection by Christ. Christ died for us while we were still sinners. When we look at it, expectation can become resentment waiting to happen if we don't view love properly. I think that Cheryl Paul says it quite beautiful. Love is a grace we give one another. Love is sometimes effortful, but it's not based on someone else's effort. Love is what happens when we open our hearts and allow this love that naturally lives inside to flow forth. Love, by its very definition, is unconditional. Love is a gift. Love is why we're here. Someone who inspired me quite a lot died this last week. He died. He was a student at Andrews University. He was very young. I honestly didn't know him that incredibly well. We always set up times that we were going to hang out, and we never did. And no, it was not an unknown date. This was actually real conversation. But he was the guy that as I read through all the comments on his new blog or memorial site, I realized impacted not only an entire campus of people that he knew, but the campus of people he didn't know. Because every time you walked onto that campus, every single time you were going through anywhere, if he was nearby, he would smile and wave at you and wish you a good day. He had this crazy afro. He would sit, he was one of the groundskeepers, so he was on a riding mower a lot of the time, and he'd just be mowing, and then he'd be like, and then keep mowing, and it just would make your day. And he was the longboarder on campus, so he'd always be longboarding past you, and it was just awesome. Like, he impacted so many people by his mere presence, and it was phenomenal. And as I was reading through his memorial notes, I noticed that so many people had taken up a different method of living. They had decided to make a difference in people's lives. They had decided that it was time for them to greet people and actually make eye contact because of this person. And they also realized how little love they had given to the world at that point. When I think about this guy, I think about how he always lifted people up. And he truly presented love. Maybe not in the deepest sense where he would go and talk to you for hours about all your woes or like fix every problem for you, but no, he was able to greet people on an authentic level because he was genuinely reaching out to people. He had to share problems, but yet he was willing to open himself up to greet other people and make people's days different. In Romans 13:8 it says, "Owe no one anything except to love each other, for the one who loves another has fulfilled the law." Some versions call this debt. We are in debt to Christ. For his love, the only way to begin to repay it is through loving others. We are called to live a life of love. As Christians, we are called to be set apart and show a love that is different than the rest of the world. As followers of Christ, we are called to look at the steps on earth that Christ took. And if we do, every single step will be filled with love. Christ calls out for us to follow in his footsteps. In 1 John 2:6 it says, "Whoever says he abides in him ought to walk in the same way in which he walked." Not necessarily 12 disciples following behind, being crucified literally, not a copy of Christ's life, but we're called to look at the identity of Christ's life. How he lived, who he associated with, how he treated other people. Love transforms. Love reaches beyond boundaries. And the love that God calls us to live out is not one of perfection, but one of freedom. If only our church and all those that claim to follow Christ took more time to love in the simplest of ways, pointing all eyes to the ultimate definition of love, which is Christ. Can you imagine the difference we could make in society? Our society is starving for love with all this social media where we don't even interact with people. I order pizza online, for the way. I don't even have to talk to anyone. We have detached ourselves from human interaction, and the society around us is just dying to be interacted with. We're dying to feel some love from someone, anyone, which is why we have so many unhealthy forms of love. In John 15:12 it says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." We don't have to die, but we have to impact. Listen, help, and encourage. Honestly, I don't think I'll ever understand love. At least, not on this earth. But man, if love is this beautiful down here when it's cracked and mutilated and messed up, yet seahorses can still dance every morning, reaffirming their love for one another, cute old men sit by their loved ones' graves, and a smile can change an entire campus, and my parents can give each other life. Can you imagine what it will be like in heaven? Breathtaking. My challenge to you is to leave a legacy of love. Let the greatest commandment fill every breath that you breathe. Because when you love God and love each other, no matter how human we are in our life in love, a legacy is then born. If you remember nothing else, let God love you in his absolute perfect way, and let your heart open up, loving others, and leave that legacy of love. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for everyone that came together to worship. And God, I ask as we open up our hearts to you, help us to truly accept the love that you have for us. Even though we're broken and shattered and we have very weird versions of love, God, I ask that we just continue to effulge that love that you have given us. And help us just to make a small dent in the world that is starving for someone's attention. We love you so much. In your name, amen.